Shalom, when the self souls by giving all praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Kadash, double honors to the apostles of great most son, and honors to you brothers doing the work, the most on truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, of whom the world English calls God, Jehovah or Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh, and his son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And only pray Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, meaning in, meaning da, and Sham, meaning names Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. So I wanted to touch on this one real quick. So I found it kind of ironic that you had this guy, Kimmel, right, have his show suspended for what, when I looked into it, wasn't even that kind of, deep statements, right? And then especially like remembering some of the rhetoric, him and his, would you call these guys, those late night talk show hosts, some of the stuff that they were saying during the vid, right? And it's like, let's read a bit of it, right? So obviously he's had his show suspended. It says the vet late night host used his show on Monday night to accuse Trump and his allies of capitalizing on the influence, because that's all that, which makes you think, what exactly is going on, right? Because this guy was just the influencer, right? Yet he's being made out into being some kind of martyr. Now we understand that the elites, right, they have something called they've got a saying, never let a good crisis go to waste, okay? Which it feels like every so often we're bringing out this precept, right? 2 Corinthians 2:11, right? It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, right? Of his plans, of his slick plans, right? When you look into this word here, G3540, so that's for devices, right? Perception, a purpose, by implication, intellect, disposition, mind, right? A mental perception, a thought, an evil purpose, right? This is that which thinks, the mind, thought, or purpose, right? So an evil purpose. So this man, he's got evil in his sights, right? Which we can jump over to this, right? This is Ephesians 5. I'm gonna read into it, right? Let me see where we can start. Yeah, so start from 15, right? So see then that you walk circumspectly, right? So when we look at circumspectly, right? Exactly, accurately, diligently, right? Look at things diligently, not like the masses of people just look at things at face value, right? There is something called critical thinking, right? Let's look into that, right? So let's bring that into this tab, right, which says critical thinking is the process of analyzing available facts, evidence, observations, and arguments to make sound conclusions or informed choices. Now, what he's doing at the moment, right, is he's just bombarding the people with like lots of different points of view, lots of different things all at the same time. So people are actually really struggling to think. They're struggling to draw conclusions, right? They're struggling to really understand what it is that is going on in this place, and that's all by design, because Esau wants the people confused, right? Which even makes me think of this precept here, right? This is Isaiah 33:6, right? Because we've got a baseline, right? Yes, there are a lot of stuff that even us, right, we've got to be very careful of, right? Even us, we've got to be very careful of, right? Because he's got a lot going on at the moment, right? I'm just jump over to this real quick. It's Matthew 24:24. For they shall arise false anointed, false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch, if it were possible, that they shall deceive the very elect, right? Now obviously that's talking about that, but I kind of wanted to touch on this thing here, that they shall deceive the very elect, if it were possible. Right now the problem is it's not possible, right? The problem is, but the good thing, let's say for us, the good thing is that it's not possible to deceive the very elect, right? But there are certain things that we have to be very aware of, right? That there is a laws will be of the elect, but that that there is an agenda to basically conflate the truth. Okay, let's look up that word there, conflate. It's a word that I do like, right? It says so open up Merriam-Webster. Let's see, does it? Let me get something that's got a bit more of a better breakdown. Yep, that's the one. Let's go to Oxford. You see, yeah. So the Cambridge, right? You see, Merriam-Webster. That's that American shit, man. We're joking around, right? This is a conflate, right? In the Cambridge dictionary, just having a laugh, so like it, right? It says to combine two or more separate thing, right? Especially piece of text to form a whole, right? And basically that's what EE does a lot of. He'll conflate different things, right? Mix two or more things and then basically present them as if they're the same, when actually not, they are two very different things. Okay, so that's certainly something that we've got to be also aware of. That's why the apostles, elders, apostles, bishops, elders on down, right? They push brothers to be very circumspect when they're looking into and they're sharing articles, one with another, and especially doing videos, right, on particular articles, because there is a lot of AI junk at the moment. There's a lot of fake news at the moment, right? Which is why you do have people that genuinely believe that London's being overrun by Muslims, as an example. Okay, are there places where London has a lot of Muslims? Yes, but just this once again, this idea of the and when I said that, by the way, I was just referencing to people in the world, not anyone in the truth, right? Because it's something that I got told recently, right? But that's just one of the things we've got to be aware of, in the information that's presented to us. Okay, we've got to use that critical thinking. But on the point that I wanted to make, right, is Isaiah 33:6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure. Okay, and that's it. That's one of the things that's keeping us stable, is we've got this baseline of one, who Esau is and what his end goal agenda, right? So when he's throwing out this guy here, right, and then everything that's happened since then, we're like, well, the facts, in rather the truth as to what really happened to him doesn't necessarily matter. It's what is he achieving from this, and he's achieving a lot, right? Because once again, when we kind of scan through this article, right, and then we compare it to some of the stuff that he was saying, right, during the vid, you're like, wait there, this deserve, if anything, deserve more of a suspension. It was this, right? But of course, there's an agenda to fulfill, right? And this is very much the times that we're in. We're in the time when he is fulfilling agendas. Okay, now we're going to get to this, but this is a good website that I got told about a while ago, right? It's archive dot so the one I use is .ph, right? You saw that, I think you saw it there in the bottom left. You can see archive. Well, it's archive dot today. I don't know if it resolves to the same thing, but I do archive.ph, right? And then you just pop your article in there. In fact, let's see what happens if I do this. Come on. Yeah, I got it wrong the first time, right? Archive.ph, right? So yeah, it looks like archive.today does the same thing. You put in your article there, right? You hit save, and then you get your website, right? So handy little thing for all of these like paywalled, paywalled websites, right? But if you notice there, it will say like today, because it gets snapshots from that particular day. But I digress. So where were we now, right? So yeah, let's read this again, right? Isaiah 33:6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure. Right, and as we get more and more closer to the end of this man's kingdom, the more and more he's just going to be throwing information out there. He's just going to be throwing stuff out there, right? And we've got the baseline, which is these scriptures, and that's is what should keep us strengthened and what should keep us on that narrow path, right? Because and I speak as a man when I say this, right? In fact, let's grab this piece at first, right? This is it's Philippians 2 and 12, right? It says, "Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling," right? Because reason I say that, and bring this out first before I make this statement is, and I speak as a man when I say this, but I can see a situation. I'll put it like this, right? You've got the account in Second Maccabees, the 6th chapter, right, where you have the old man Eliezer, right, and they basically was like, "Look, man, yo, eat this pork," right, and he was like, "I ain't gonna eat that pork," right, but guess what, right, nowadays with the technology that he has, right, he can make Eliezer eat the pork. Eliezer ain't eating the pork, right, but he can make it seem like he has. Okay, and obviously we know this time around it ain't no pork, right? It's the MOTB, right? We and ourselves have to be, regardless of what imagery, regardless of anything that gets put out there, right? Regardless of what show he puts on, right? We can't be we gotta remember, what our grounding is, right? We gotta remember, what the scriptures say, right? And one of the things that the scripture says is that a man of the Lord ain't gonna take that MOTB. Okay, so let's grab back into Ephesians 5. We never finished this, right? It says Ephesians 5:15, right? "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools but as wise," right? Once again, have to use that critical thinking, right, to ensure that we're not swayed, right, that we're careful with the videos that we do, right, just that due diligence, right, and just keep an eye on everything that's happening, right. It says, "Redeeming the time, because the days are evil," and that's it, right. The days are evil, right, and the days are going to become more and more evil, right. The fact that they just allowed what happened to my man just like be out there as it was. Once again, whether it happened or not, right, don't really matter, right. What matters is the response from it, right. The fact that it was there to be broadcast, and the fact that people saying that shouldn't have, because this is the thing, right. And I was saying it to someone the other day. It's like, how is it that if I'm watching a cough cough dodgy stream of football, right, that can get blocked like immediately, and that's live, right? But these times, like a video like that can just keep being passed through Twitter and all of that without issue, right? Questions have to be asked, right? So he's always got an agenda, right? That's why one of the first pieces we got was this, 2 Corinthians 2:11, that Satan should get an advantage of us, for we're not ignorant of his devices, right? And it also helps, just numb the people more and more, because that's one of the things that he wants, right? He wants people to be to be cold, right? And really it's what the Most High wants, right? Because Yahushua said this, Matthew 24:12, "And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold," and it's waxing colder and colder and colder, right? And once again, ironically, this is something that these guys was saying, right? The CV really showed you how cold these men are, and these men are gonna become, okay, more and more, right? So let's just scan a bit of this, right? Because this is just like, is that it, right? So delivering his opening monologue, the host said that the MAGA gang was desperately trying to characterize the kid who done that to my man as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. He also accused them of working very hard to capitalize on the happening, right? He then played a clip of Trump being asked about how he was holding up by a reporter 2 days after what happened, says, in which the president said he was doing very good, before pivoting to the subject of construction being done for the White House's new ballroom. Kimmel then quipped, "He's at the 4th stage of grief, construction." Says, "This is not how adults grieve the thingy of someone he calls a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish." Okay, and that was it. That was really it. When I kind of scanned a bit more, I was like, wait, is that literally all that he allegedly said? Okay. Yeah, when we read this article, right, from the 8th of September 2021, right, which is kind of funny. Basically means he's what 4 years between, more or less, right? He's made controversial statements, right? Newsworthy controversial statement 4 years, in between, more or less, because what this is, today's the 18th of September, this is the 8th of September. Okay, so it's let me come down to this, right? So it says that choice doesn't seem so tough to me, Kimmel said. A jabbed person having a heart attack, yes, come right in, we'll take care for you. An unjabbed guy who gobbled horse goo, rest in peace, Wheezy. Right, basically saying, with that last bit, it don't really matter. The point is more, that bit, okay, where he's basically saying if you ain't juiced up and you tried something else, right, then basically you deserve what you get, right? You should basically you should be allowed to return to the spirit world, right? This is basically what he was saying there, which I would argue that this is significantly more worthy of a firing than this, right? But once again, these guys have an agenda, okay? This devil has an agenda, and we're going to see it playing out more and more, right, with more and more events that more and more events, right, where he's furthering more and more of his agenda, okay? So that's, like I said, I just wanted to touch on that real quick, because hey, like, once again, for me, I'm just like, bro, that's a lot more offensive than what was said, in this reportedly said in this article, okay? But once again, he's got an agenda, right? So we all got to be circumspect, right? Even as the statement came down, from apostles, bishops, and elders, right? But Arkim, we've got to be careful how we'll be interacting, right, on these social channels, right? Because as we've seen, right, some of the commentary is that they're going to be coming down on people, right, that are saying certain things, which ultimately we understand the end goal, right? We're coming closer and closer to this time, and we can end on this, not 8, 9, 8, and 11. This is Amos 8 and 11. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, thou will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, not thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh. Okay, and that's one of the things that we can see coming off of events like this, right? You had different parliaments basically saying, look, man, we need more restrictions, right? Said one said that what did they say? Like, you basically need like a curfew, right? For and it all starts off with the teenagers, right? For the teenagers, the young children, we need a curfew. We need to make sure that children aren't accessing this kind of content, right? So we go and see more and more of this, right? The tightening of basically bringing the truth out. But hey, we say go ahead, right? It's just the fulfillment of prophecy. It's one step closer to the kingdom. So as always, Lord's will that was edifying. Till next time we say Shalom.